Hey Aquarius, what's up? I was seeing definitely a mixed bag with the energy, so I don't really have a message to start this off with. We're just going to see what comes out. We're starting off with King of Swords. And we also have Five of Wands on the bottom of the deck. You can feel like your energy is being pulled in a couple different directions. We also have Three of Pentacles coming out. You can have somebody coming through and wanting to work with you, or you can have this feels like maybe a puzzle piece coming through. Just something that would be a helpful addition to what you have going on right now. I'm hearing the word conference with King of Swords, Three of Pentacles, Eight of Swords. When we have this type of energy, there can be a desire to be helpful, a desire to communicate, a desire to work on something and make progress. But having that Eight of Swords there can be something going on where you can be having trouble expressing yourself. I don't know if this is like in general you feel like that, or it's just in this situation where you're like, I don't know what to do. And I think it's somewhere where you may feel a responsibility having that Three of Pentacles there. Like, I'm here and I'm supposed to be like doing something and I'm supposed to be contributing something and being helpful here. But then having that Eight of Swords is almost like, yeah, just this feeling of not really knowing what to do. But then I'm seeing things move out of that space. So maybe that was more a temporary thing that was being felt. This can also be about moving forward. Like maybe there was some resistance to that as well. Maybe because of the direction that things were going in. So I'm seeing you move to a space where it looks like what's going on is being broken down, maybe in a more easily digestible way. Maybe so this can like make things easier to tackle, because we go from Three of Pentacles to Two of Pentacles. And so it can be like, if we're going to make this work, we have to bring this down to a practical level where there may be more like simple. The way that this is coming through is, it's like the difference between like knowing literal steps to take versus something kind of being like a bigger picture type thing. This feels like breaking something down into like more simple steps in order to move forward. I'm feeling some tension in the left shoulder blade. This can be something that's being carried, like you may need to be receptive to like more collaboration in this instance. That can be the need, because left side is going to be about your receptivity. So maybe there's something going on where if you were more receptive to it, it would be more helpful to you at this point, because you're going into some type of phase where it can be like more simple stuff that has to be done, but it's going to be effective because this is the way that things need to be done right now. So it feels appropriate as far as like this stage of things that you're at. This can, you know, having King of Swords, having Three of Pentacles, having Eight of Swords, it can also be like, I want to say things, but I want to make sure that I'm not saying the wrong thing. I want to make sure that I'm approaching this correctly. And that can also be something too, where I feel like something about you expressing yourself is important within this, but doing so in a way that feels like it's doing what you need it to do. And then also there being this phase of like figuring things out on like this very practical level of how to do this. It's like step one, do this. Step two, do that. It's like it goes down to these very like this very finite way of needing to figure out how to do things, where before maybe that wasn't happening. Like maybe there's some issue in the communication as well, where it's like if this felt more fluid within the communication within this situation. Some of you, I feel strongly like this can be a work situation that you're involved in, It doesn't have to be, but I get a lot of that energy from this, where you can be trying to like work with other people and communicate with them, but there can be some feelings of it not feeling totally in flow, and then trying to figure out like, what are you asking of me? What do you need of me? Like, how do we get things kind of on the page that we need them to be at? How do I make sure that I'm communicating when I need to be communicating? But there can just be something that feels like the flow is not totally there. And so it feels like something has to get simplified in order to make it easier. Like maybe you were a step up and you had to take something a step down in order for it to like maybe go back to basics a little bit here with something, moving into that Two of Pentacles. Because Two of Pentacles can be a very simplified energy that we get into, where we try to make things less complicated, going from a 3 to a 2. So maybe there's even like a factor that's being withdrawn, or like a variable that's being withdrawn to simplify this a bit here and make it a little bit easier to manage everything, because I get stuff about needing to manage things too. But this can feel like it's frying you a little bit here because of there not being like good communication or something like that. I see some type of issue with the communication. Where like, I think that if the effective communication were there, I don't think that that Eight of Swords would be there. Is you being unhappy with something right now? Sorry, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. I'm feeling slightly under the weather, so, but we're making it through. Yeah, I think that you can be managing some type of emotional unrest that you're feeling, while you also still have to show up on the practical front and be doing things too. So you can be like, on the back burner emotionally, I'm dealing with this thing where I don't feel like totally good with the way that things have been going, you know. Maybe you also in certain ways see like a better way for things to be being done. That can be something too with this energy. So I think there's like, I have to manage things on the emotional front for myself, because there's a duplicity to this. I have to manage things on the emotional front, and then I also have to make sure that I'm coming through. You know, a King of Swords is somebody that you want to be showing up in a level-headed way. And if you're dealing with something emotionally, this feels like I don't want this to impact the way that I'm communicating. Like, I don't want this to be bringing some unnecessary baggage into this situation, but I also can't dismiss that I'm feeling these certain things. So there's stuff that you can't like just make it go away. It still exists, but you may not want it to be front and center as it relates to this process that's going on. So you can be figuring out how to do that. Like, how can I show up effectively while also carrying this thing with me and not making it about this thing, while also not dismissing this thing that I have going on? Because I'm seeing something that you're feeling that is present for sure. But you're also still trying to move forward. It's like, let's move on from that. I'm definitely getting that too. Like, you don't want to get stuck there. I think that's also why you don't want this to be front and center with what you're dealing with. Like, I am seeing you wanting to move on. You want to move forward. So having that also be here as well. It's like, how do we let this go and move forward? I think ultimately there's an old chapter that now I'm getting stuff about personal life. So I guess it's like a mixed bag for each of you as far as what you can be experiencing with this. There's a chapter that I'm seeing you close out because you don't want to, I think you just like don't want to put yourself in a position anymore to be disappointed. And I think that something happened enough times that you were like, it's just going to stay like this. I want to move on. I don't want to have to be dealing with this anymore. And so this needs to be closed out entirely. I need to remove myself entirely. And I think that this is something that feels really hard. And there can be a part of you that's having a hard time on certain days, because you're like, what if it would have gone like this? Or what if I would have moved this way? Or if only they just would have shown up in that way. There's this stuff that pops up, but I'm also seeing you be like, even with these things popping up, you not wanting to go back, but you also have to employ that part of you that is seeing things clearly and not getting hung up on unresolved emotions to the point where it's going to take you backwards. Because I'm seeing you not wanting that to happen at all. Because something has run its course, and I think that you're clear on that. It's just some days you may kind of turn back and like look back a little bit on the past, only to remind yourself that the game plan is for you to move forward, and that's what you decided was the right move for you to be making here. And I am seeing you like move forward pretty quickly, actually, which is interesting, because in certain ways I'm seeing you move forward quickly, but then in other ways I'm also seeing there be some stuff that pops up on other days or like other moments where maybe you feel like you are surging forward, and also too, you have these moments sometimes where it like hits you really hard, just the way that you feel about things, and also some stuff that just hasn't totally been worked through yet. But I do feel a finality to something here that you've been working on, where it's like, this is complete now. This is over now. I'm moving forward now. And I'm not going to be caught up in this anymore. Maybe also something about this too is that you kind of had to break something down having to do with your feelings about acceptance of this situation, and only then were you maybe giving yourself permission to fully move forward. Like maybe that was the last step. Like, you know, the 5 steps of grieving, maybe there was something going on where you had to like complete this final step before you could move on fully, and now that's happening. And I also see that this is something that could have, you may be dealing with this on the psychological front, but also being in a place where you're like, yeah, this is coming up, this is how I'm experiencing things, and I'm not giving up on my plan to move forward. But you can still be upset about this sometimes. Like, it hits you and it can hit you hard sometimes, but then you have to like level with yourself and be like, we're not going back. I feel like one of those situations. I'm seeing Scorpio and I'm seeing Saturn here, and this is an interesting combination because with the energy of Scorpio, it can be involving things that we've become like extremely impacted by, involved with, entangled with, where we kind of like merge even with a situation, or we feel like so heavily impacted by it. Having Saturn there can be severance. Having Saturn there can be the dissolution of that in this type of instance. And it can also be lessons on the emotional and psychological front that we go through, of cutting off the things that are not allowing us to evolve and move forward, which is constantly a lesson for Scorpio. So this is somewhere where like you can see this going on in that area of your chart, if you have placements, or like just in general a theme. Also too, like Pluto is in your sign, so this is something that you can be seeing, these types of things where stuff has to be like eradicated essentially. Otherwise it's going to be like you have to learn that lesson on the psychological and emotional front, and also understanding the relationship between the two, like kind of how evolved you are psychologically, how self-aware you are, and then what that is kind of how that's being projected on the emotional front, and what you're getting connected with, who you're getting connected with, even like what even the like style of your relationships look like. Because Saturn is coming through and saying like, hey, these are areas where you need to get more serious, where you need to evolve, where you need to grow up, where you need to get more disciplined, where you need to make moves that are best for you and not be committed to the wrong stuff. Like, why be committed to things that hold you back and don't allow you to grow and keep you like in a downward spiral that you don't want to be in? And with Scorpio there, this can be the stuff that it's like, I don't want to let go of it. I feel so attached to it. I feel so connected. Scorpio is fixed water. Doesn't be wanting to let go of the things that we connect with. But when it gets to a point of like having the same experience again and again on the emotional front, something that you're like, this is doing me damage, I have to release this. It gets to that point where that is the only conclusion that you come to. And being like, I don't want to have to learn this lesson again. Like, I've learned my lesson. So it will be like that within the energy. And I do think at this point, like, something has been learned and something has been completed at this point. And you can be like, I'm ready to get out of here. I don't want to have to go through this anymore. But I think that you're still dealing with like the after effect and like the remnants of having been in that situation. And I think it was like some sort of repetitive loop that you had been in as well, that now you're breaking out of. Okay, so you're balancing this with what you're getting into next. So it's like both of these things happening, which has been, this is an energy that I've been seeing in a lot of readings lately, is kind of this mix of like one body of water and another body of water kind of like moving into one another, where there's something happening where you're kind of in that middle gradient of like transitioning out of one thing, moving into the next thing, but you can feel the overlap of both of them. So there can be like, wow, this is really catching my attention. I feel excited about this thing that I'm stepping into. I see potential. I see opportunity in that. I do feel like curious about what's behind that door, while also can be like feeling sad. You can be mourning what it is that you're stepping away from, what's closing out, what's ending, what is completing. So it feels like both of these things that are happening right now, and you being in both of these things while also not getting carried away and regressing, and also not pushing so much forward that then you're not dealing with the emotional stuff that needs to be dealt with of the closing outs that are happening too. I think that about says it for everything that I'm seeing here. I feel like that covers everything. You can also be figuring out like what you're getting started and kind of like what you're signing up for next. There can be stuff about managing relationships that are coming up, or managing important choices. And that can be something that you're still figuring out. But you can also know that you're still affected by like kind of like old emotions that are still being processed through. I'm getting confirmation of this. Yeah, some of you, I think it's still, you're still letting go of what you saw as being the potential of a situation that didn't last like that, or didn't fully develop like that. And this is something that you can still be reconciling with. There can also be, I see like a big life shift that's connected with this in general. And that can also impact the way that you see yourself, and it can also impact the way that you're doing things and leading your life as well. Yeah. This feels like one of those lessons where, I mean, Saturn is going in with the Three of Swords. This can be something that's been like very heavily on your mind, and it can be something that you've really been going through it on the emotional front as well. I mean, Three of Swords can also be something that we feel as being like a really heartbreaking situation too, depending on the severity of this. But no matter what, it's going to be something that's been on your mind and that you can still feel like it's like you wake up in the morning with like a heavy heart type of feeling from this. But I also see there be new energy that's coming through that feels very, very promising. And I think that this is helping make the transition a bit easier. But that doesn't mean that it makes other feelings go away. I think that there's something that you're tuning into where you're like, I can make things mine in the way that I want to, and moving forward, that really is my plan. And I think things are gonna shift in a way that is gonna feel a lot more agreeable to you and that you're gonna enjoy more. And may also feel more honest for you and what you want for yourself. All right, we're going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting and tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.